Hey, it's the end of the year, and since I'm a film critic, that means it's list-making time. Goody. This week, the top best movies of 2013. Next week, the other list. One quick thing before we get started. I don't keep a running, numbered, mathematically sound list of how I felt about every movie I saw all year long. I just don't. As such, you'll probably find lists either by me or that I was part of elsewhere on the web. I am, for example, a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and was part of voting for this list that look a bit different from this one. This list is how I feel right now, at this moment, looking back, nothing more or less empirical than that, so don't get bent out of shape. With that said, here we go. First up, the runners-up, in no particular order. And now, number 10, Gravity. I am not as high on Gravity as other film critics are. I think it lacks a certain amount of confidence in its audience and its material, as evidenced by the unnecessary backstory and life lesson stuff. What, because being trapped in space isn't a compelling enough movie? And that really dopey business in the third act. But you just can't deny what an awesome ride this is, and since I let The Hobbit be on the list last year for being an awesome ride, yeah, Gravity kinda rocks. It's just sort of funny that in a movie that's made as one part art house character piece and one part Universal Studios movie ride, the spectacle is the part that works better. Number 9, Captain Phillips. Tom America Hanks in the ripped-from-the-headline story of just your average good-natured New England sea captain stuck in the middle of a hijacking turned kidnapping by merciless Somali pirates, that should be the least nuanced, least thoughtful movie of all time. But instead, thanks to smart directing, a terrific screenplay, and the miracle casting of previously unknown Somali-born actor Barkhad Abdi as the intimidating but complex pirate captain, it turns into a real highlight of suspense and human drama. Oh, and I guess that Larry Crown guy is pretty good in it too. Number 8, Frozen. I'm as surprised as you are. A Disney musical, another entry into the money-printing princess franchise no less, turns out to be one of the year's genuine cinematic highlights, but goddamn, Frozen is simply the best version of exactly what it wants to be in a long, long time, buoyed by a fantastic central voice and music performance by Idina Menzel as Elsa, one of the year's most interesting new female characters, animated or otherwise. I even like the stupid snowman, and I was all set to hate the snowman. Number 7, Blue is the warmest color. Number 6, Pain and Gain. Michael Bay made one of the best movies of the year. Michael Bay, one of the best movies of the year. Michael Bay, best of the year. Yeah, that happened. This is the year where Michael Bay made a better fact-based movie about idiots getting in over their heads in a criminal scheme than the guy who made The Fighter. And his next movie has robot dinosaurs, which, by the law of robot dinosaurs, should be impossible to screw up. Guys, I don't know what the world is anymore. Number 5, You're Next. This was a really good year for horror movies at the box office, sometimes for really, really good movies, sometimes for really, really bad movies. This one didn't do so hot, but it was my favorite and you should really check it out. What starts out like a typical family under siege thriller turns into something like an ingenious dark comedy, with great suspense, excellent kills, terrific gore effects, and a mystery plot that actually manages truly surprising story turns and shocking reveals of both heroes and villains. You probably missed this in theaters, it's coming out for sale in a couple weeks, you should watch it. Number 4, Spring Breakers. Look, believe me or don't, it's good. A stinging metacritique of Generation Y excess and a fascinating portrait of emptiness unleashed exploding across the cultural wastelands of Party Scene, Florida, plumbing the depths and darkness of characters who mask sociopathic tendencies with vapid shallowness. Seriously, this was one for the ages, and if it looks on the surface like something you'd absolutely hate, you're probably kind of the perfect audience for it. Give it a chance. Number 3, Fruitvale Station. This is a dramatization of what a day in the life might have been like on the last day in the life for one Oscar Grant, a young man who was fatally shot in the back by a police officer while lying face down on a subway platform in 2008, the cop claiming he had mistaken his gun for his taser. Given that background, the movie can't help but be quietly powerful, and it's buoyed by a terrific lead and actor Michael B. Jordan, who's currently in contention to be the new Human Torch. The movie is rough, gripping, and tough to watch, but it's potent filmmaking and vital stuff given how often this kind of thing just keeps on happening. Number 2, The Wolf of Wall Street. This hasn't come out yet, so you'll get my full review pretty soon, actually. Until then, it's not my favorite movie of the year, so it can't be number 1, but The Wolf of Wall Street is the best movie of the year. At once a great drama and a great dark comedy. You kinda have to see it to understand how that works, but you will not believe how much fun it is to watch such great cast behave so badly. It is no hyperbole necessary, astonishingly great stuff. Do not miss it. Number 1, Pacific Rim. But yeah, this was still my favorite. The basic premise, world, and scenario of Pacific Rim are so inherently awesome that any remotely competent filmmaker would have probably still made a good movie out of it. But put a great filmmaker like Guillermo del Toro at the helm and you get something truly special. I really don't think we'll be able to fully appreciate just how ahead of the curve this movie was until we've seen just how predictive it was of what movies would look, sound, and feel like in the emerging global future. Is it just a movie about giant robots punching giant monsters? Yes, but in its own way, it's every bit the movie of the future that the more narratively ambitious Cloud Atlas was. And hell yeah, 3 cheers for Mako Mori, the other surprisingly groundbreaking new movie heroine this year gave us. Alright, that's enough positivity from me. Happy holidays, kids. I'll see you back here next week for the other list. The year-end worst list. This is my version of the Thanksgiving turkey. I wait all year for the chance to make one of these. Just one thing. I really don't have a formula for what lands on here. It's generally not just about being a bad movie. It's about also being disappointing, or if otherwise good resources were wasted, or if the film is intellectually offensive on some level. Put another way, Medea's Christmas or Movie 43 aren't on here because you already know they suck. No one was shocked or devastated by their sucking. Them sucking doesn't matter, so their suckitude doesn't feel like it makes much of an impact. And does anyone need me to tell them that Walter Mitty was a pile of ass? No, they don't. Also, I am a human being, and as such, I experience near constant growth and change both physically and intellectually. As such, my opinions occasionally change as I've had time to think about them. Therefore, you may find movies on this list described as bad that I had previously called not that bad or even good, because I am a human being. So, now then. Number 10, American Hustle. Eventually, every promising next great American auteur filmmaker tries to make Goodfellas. David O. Russell probably should have gotten his out of his system back when he was promising, and not just an undeniably talented but mercurial director who's starting to show signs of having peaked with The Fighter. It's not that this movie is bad so much as it's so average and lifeless, considering all the talent on hand. Why all the sturm and drang over something as goofy and ripe for comedy as the Abscam scandal? Why are 4 celebrated, immensely talented actors, and also Bradley Cooper, stomping around with those god-awful fake New Jersey accents like an SNL sketch they forgot to bring the jokes for? It goes on forever, none of it feels authentic or interesting. There's a moment where an actor known for actual Martin Scorsese movies shows up, and it's like George Harrison just got up on stage with the Monkees. What a letdown. Number 9, After Earth. Will Smith and Son in a heavy-handed, self-indulgent science fiction allegory for being Will Smith and Son, directed by the universal walking symbol for who keeps hiring this man. Does anything else need to be said? No, it doesn't. Number 8, Star Trek Into Darkness. There's a misconception that I hated the first Star Trek reboot. That's not true, I just didn't love it. I saw potential, I appreciated the effort, I enjoyed it strictly as a pretty decent action movie. And I still think that everyone in the cast who isn't Chris Pine could make a really excellent Star Trek movie given the chance. But Into Darkness pretty much feels like all my worst fears about J.J. Abrams being just wrong for this franchise came true. The plot is a mess, the characters are all over the place, it fails to take the story or franchise in anything resembling an interesting direction, and it's all based around a pointless failure of a big twist that exists exclusively for stupid mystery box marketing hype. The original reboot didn't suck, and that was a miracle, considering how bad it could have gone. But this movie squanders every scrap of goodwill the reboot built up. Is it too late to just forget this reboot universe and just pick up where we left off? Please? Patrick Stewart's still in pretty decent shape. Number 7, August Osage County. Do you like watching otherwise good actors playing soap opera stable of dysfunctional family stock characters sitting around a table spitting out self-revelatory exposition that probably worked in the play but slop out like some kind of Caucasian telenovela cheese whiz on screen in heavily affected pan-Midwestern accents while her royal hamness Meryl Streep cackles out mechanically telegraphed cutting remarks on cue like a Gatling gun loaded with would-be Oscar clips? Have I got a movie for you? Or perhaps someone you hate but have to take to a movie? Number 6, The Purge. Here's one of the best original premises for a suspense thriller in years. An annual holiday where for one night, everyone is allowed to do any evil, sick, depraved, degenerate, perverted, vile thing they want without fear of being arrested or even prevented. Unforgivably wasted by a weak, witless movie that takes this great idea and does nothing with it. Number 5, The Host. Was Stephenie Meyer overcriticized as a developing outsider artist of an author, unfairly critiqued because of the early unforeseen mega-success of the Twilight Saga? Nope. Turns out she just sucks. I mean, The Host is so bad, Andrew Niccol couldn't make it good. And he made Gattaca. Number 4, Carrie. You can make a good movie out of anything, but if you're going to remake a classic, iconic movie, you'd best have a better idea than, hey, let's make the same movie, only not anywhere near as narratively or visually memorable. No one has ever watched a movie and said, this is good, but I'd like it if it were more bland and took fewer chances. Number 3. The Lone Ranger. Here's a picture of Johnny Depp as Tonto. I got nothing else at this point, guys. Number 2. A Good Day to Die Hard. We always said Bruce Willis was so cool there was nothing he could do to become not cool. That's probably still true, but does he really have to keep trying? Number 1. Man of Steel. Alright, so were there objectively worse movies than Man of Steel this year? Yes, we talked about this, but none of them were more infuriating, none of them were more disappointing against their own unrealized potential, and none of them stuck in my head and wouldn't leave the way this one did. At first I was just disappointed but intrigued, but on each viewing and with each thought given it, the sheer weight of badness and miscalculation just gets harder and harder to take. So many good actors, such an accomplished and interesting creative team, and also for some reason David Goyer, one of the most widely seen, widely known, widely understood, beloved iconic characters of all time. How did they get this so wrong that it just gets more wrong the more memory just sits there and festers? This was supposed to be the beginning of Warner Brothers and DC Comics' answer to the Avengers, but it's more like an opposite inverse instead of a competitor, mean-spirited instead of joyful, ponderous instead of smart, drab instead of vibrant, grim instead of witty, hundreds of thousands of individual creative decisions, almost all of them the wrong move at the wrong moment. Its failure is sad but fascinatingly so. It's like an active crime scene of a movie. And even if the actual damage, when you get right down to it, mainly amounts to just one more mindless, uninspired action flick headed for the same heap as Transformers 2, The Expendables, The Mummy 3, etc., this is Superman, damn it! That's supposed to mean something. That's supposed to mean you try harder. And that's why, now that we've come to the finish line, Man of Steel feels like the most disappointing, most mishandled, worst movie of 2013. Here's hoping for a better one. I'm Bob, and that's the big picture.